Let's hear from some of those Georgians at the polling stations.
I want the person who's representing Georgia and to represent the choices that I want to see made across the national level. So that's why I voted.
I want to consistently make Georgia a battleground state. I like the fact that outside state money just pours into us every single time. And in order for that to happen, we really have to make these numbers come out for the second time to show that there really is a difference.
I just think it's important. It's your civic duty, and also especially as like a female and not a person of color. I think the people who show up to vote are the people who they care about making policies for. So that's why I came to vote.
Well, for more on that vote, we can cross to France 24's correspondent Kethevane Gorjestani, who's in Atlanta. Now, Kethevane, you were at the polling stations early this morning. What impression did you get from voters? What would you say is on their mind?
Well, they were definitely motivated. I got to a polling station in Midtown Atlanta about half an hour, 40 minutes before the polls actually opened at 7 a.m. And there were already about 30, 40 people there ready to be first in line to vote. Even though this is a runoff, they really wanted to cast their ballot. And those people I spoke to really made the case that, first of all, voting was their duty. And the other thing that many of them told me was that they really wanted to have the possibility they really wanted to have the possibility, basically, to choose who was going to represent them in the Senate. And that is why they wanted to cast their ballot, even though they really didn't feel like there was going to be much of a change in the Senate. But it was really about their personal vote for this Senate seat.
Now, yes, as we mentioned, the stakes aren't necessarily as high as last year, but this is still a key vote. What does its outcome mean in a wider political sense?
Well, yes, even if the Democrats lose this seat in Georgia, they still will have a 50-50 Senate, meaning that the vice president will have the tie-breaking vote. And that means that the situation would likely be the same as it is right now. They still would have control of the Senate. But they are very much focused on winning that 51st seat in the Senate, because it would make their life much easier, especially when it comes to committees. Right now, those committees are divided half-half between Republicans and Democrats, and with an outright majority, that would no longer be the case. The Democrats would have majorities inside the committees, meaning that it would be much easier to pass through nominations, to issue subpoenas, to really do all the work that Senate committees do. And also, it would be important for the Democrats to have 51 votes, because that means they could spare one vote, possibly. And that is important because there are a couple of moderate Democrats who don't always see eye to eye with the more progressive wing of the party. I'm thinking, of course, of Senator Joe Manchin. And that means with 51 votes, they could spare Joe Manchin's vote, and that would give them a little bit of breathing room going forward. For the Republicans, it's more about having a victory to end this election cycle, flipping a Democratic seat, given that those midterms did not go exactly as planned. They didn't do as well as many people had expected. And so if they could win here in Georgia, it would be really a symbolic victory, one to sort of cap off this election season and end on a high note for the Republicans.
Indeed, we'll be watching that very closely. Thank you very much for that, Kethevane Gorjestani, reporting there from Atlanta, Georgia.